Reverse migration. With Trump's latest tweet and the incident involving the guardsmen, we now have a situation where reverse migration may be something where there are actual steps taken in the United States to change the flow. However, based on what is laid out, it looks like the current plan is an absolute disaster as is and needs to be reframed to do it properly if they actually want this thing to succeed. So today, we're going to lay out the plan as it appears right now and the better way to successfully do it that's going to survive legal challenges and be the best framework for actually accomplishing the goal. Of course, I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney, and this is a legal mindset where we teach you to be your own judge. This is a fast facts version, although it will be a longer one because there's a lot of information to download today, and this is a very technical topic because we want to do it right. And I've spent the last couple days, although I've been sick, I spent the last couple days trying to get some details on this so you guys can see exactly how we can get this done. So let's go over to our PP, our PowerPoint we got here for on the roadmap for reverse migration. Of course, we have the two guardsmen, Andrew Wolf, who's injured and fighting for his life right now, and Sarah Beckstrom, who sadly passed away. I was praying for both of them, and now I'm praying for the friends and family of both of these individuals. Obviously, a terrible tragedy, which really falls on the fact that there was no screening or minimal screening done for those that were brought in from Afghanistan. This is a situation where we need to seriously examine people because we have now blood on our hands from a failure in this regard. And this is something that highly motivated me to make a video. And as I said, guys, from now on, I'm focusing on topics I'm highly motivated on rather than just, your here, there, everyday news. So let's get into this. This is the tweet from Donald Trump, which says, even as we progress technologically, immigration policy has eroded those gains and living conditions for many. I will permanently pause migration from all third world countries. And the highlights here are very important to pay attention to allow the U.S. system to recover, terminate all of the millions of Biden illegal emissions, including those signed by Sleepy Joe Biden's auto pen. I'll remove anyone who is not a net asset to the United States or is incapable of loving our country. End all federal benefits and subsidies to non-citizens of our country. Denaturalize all migrants who undermine, quote-unquote, domestic tranquility, and deport any foreign national who is a public charge, security risk, or non-compatible with Western civilization. These goals will be pursued with the aim of achieving a major reduction in illegal and disruptive populations, including those admitted through the unauthorized and illegal auto pen approval process. Only reverse migration, in caps, can fully cure the situation. Other than that, happy Thanksgiving to all, except those that hate, steal, murder, and destroy everything that America stands for. You won't be here for long. Very clear goals here. Number one, permanent pause of all immigration from third world countries, which is undefined. Next is termination of millions of Biden-era emissions under the auto pen theory. The next is denaturalization of naturalized citizens who undermine domestic tranquility or are non-compatible with Western civilization. Next, deportation of immigrants deemed not a net asset, quote unquote, or public charges. The last is ending federal benefits to all non-citizens. So these are what he wants to do. I'm going to tell you right now, reading through these, it's going to be very difficult to accomplish most of these. Now, there are ways to do it, but it doesn't look like, and I do not trust, that Pam Bondi and the brilliant legal minds that have failed in the past are going to do it right. Let's talk about the third world pause. Okay. So for this one, the primary basis for a challenge, and I'm going to go through for all of these for the current plan, I'm going to go through the primary basis for the challenge, the key precedent, and the plaintiffs. And then I'm going to present to you an alternative plan that will really get the job done. So the problem with third world pause is it violates the INA, and this requires country-specific security findings. It also violates the Equal Protection Clause, which is the 15th and 14th Amendments. It also, especially if it's race and religion-based, right? And it's arbitrary under the Administrative Procedure Act, the APA. So you've got all these different potential challenges. You've already got precedent in Trump versus Hawaii that says, hey, you have authority, but you need evidence-based criteria, right? So just throwing out there third world, that's not evidence-based enough. You need more than that. So Biden-era reversals face no blocks. And also the 2025 Venezuela TPS termination was partially blocked. So you need to make sure you're coming with the right evidence and you're coming with country-specific security findings. The ACLR in CARE would expect filings within days. So there definitely would be filings on this, and this is something that would 100% be challenged as soon as possible. So this is one that I'd be very concerned about. The ACLU, so for the potential plaintiffs, the ACLU and the CAIR expect filings within days. So these guys should be filing within days as potential plaintiffs. Next, under AutoPen, the primary basis for the challenge is that it lacks statutory basis. It violates due process under the Fifth Amendment, and it retroactively invalidates lawful entries without hearing. So you have to have a hearing. You have to give them some due process. So you're essentially taking away due process from a massive amount of people. You already have opinions to the DOJ that say AutoPen signatures are valid. So the courts are really going to hate it if this is going to cause massive bureaucratic chaos by mass removals like the 2021 Muslim ban repeal. So it's very likely that the potential plaintiffs, the immigrants groups, and the class actions would win on this one. So I think the AutoPen, as much as it's ridiculous and you can make fun of it, it has the legal basis is not here to attack that. Yes, it's a good talking point. Yes, it is. But from a legal standpoint, the AutoPen is a loser. Denaturalization for undermining tranquility and non-compatibility. Once again, whenever you see these words that are super vague, like what does that mean? What are we getting here? So they're going to challenge that under the 14th Amendment because citizenship should be irrevocable except for fraud or crimes, which we'll talk about later. This is void for vagueness. It's way too vague. And under the First Amendment, it's going to chill speech. What does undermining tranquility mean? What does non-compatibility mean? There's already case precedent on Afriam versus Rusk, which protects citizenship as a right. And there really aren't that many denaturalization cases. The 2020 challenge to expanded denaturalization was certified as a class action. So you're going to have naturalized citizens that are coming in via the ACLU. You have ongoing suits already in 35 states. So this is not something you're going to want to wade into carelessly. There's a way to do this, but we'll talk about that different because you're going to need to target it specifically. All right. Deportation of non-assets and public charges. So this misapplies the public charge rule for entry denial, not deportation. It's specific. It's also violates due process because there's no individual hearing. Once again, that's something you have to have. You can't get around due process. And also, it might trigger the Eighth Amendment of cruel and unusual punishment. So the 2025 ICE no bail policy was rejected by over 225 plus judges in 700 plus cases. There's nationwide class action in California in November 2025. And the Fifth and Eighth Circuits are expediting appeals of this. You'd have this challenged as plaintiffs by undocumented peoples under the LPRS via CASA or LULAC. These are, of course, advocacy groups. And 20 plus states have sued over related enforcement. So you're going to have a lot of pushback on this one. Ending federal benefits for non-citizens. Well, here's the problem. Congress controls spending. That's a little spending clause thing. You don't have the power. You do not have the power. Also, it violates statutes like PROWORA, which is the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Act. There's a 5-year wait for SNAP or Medicaid with exceptions like refugees. There's actually a lot too many exceptions, but there are ways to clamp down on the accepted categories and therefore fix that problem. Trump doesn't talk about that. It's not in the strategy yet. Key precedent says courts struck down similar first-term attempts in his first term. In 2025, there was a freeze on immigrant organization-backed funding, but was blocked as an APA, Administrative Procedure Act violation. This was in the Democracy Forward lawsuit in March 2025. And the potential plaintiffs, you've got nonprofit states, you've got a lot of class action. So this one, once again, going to get sued into defeat. So the anticipated outcome, to sum this all up, I know that's a lot of stuff for you guys. And by the way, thank you for being patient, and I hope you enjoy this content. Make sure you smash the like button and make sure you're subscribed for more in-depth analysis. So under Trump's plan, based on what I see right now, I would expect temporary restraining orders and injunctions within weeks, maybe even days. This is going to look like the 2017 Muslim ban. It's blocked days after issuance. Vague terms like third world, blah, 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 those sort of language, that language is going to get strict scrutiny. It's obviously going to get strict scrutiny. So whoever's telling him to put these things out here, I'm wondering, are they controlled opposition or just dumb? Like, what's going on? Who is telling him to put out these things? What's happening right now? Because this is just stupid. This plan is just dumb in the short term. Now, in the long term, SCOTUS 6.3 might uphold some narrow security-based pauses, but everything that he's putting out right now looks like it's going to be attacked on discriminatory elements. Also, one important thing is the policy could cut the GDP by labor shortages. That's just something that will be noted. We should note for a long-term effect. Once again, I'm not, saying that it's all win-win, it's all cherry on top for stopping the flow of migration. Obviously, there's labor shortages. There's people that have brought that up to me. Hey, Andrew, I'm in an industry and we're having labor shortages. There's obviously things that are going to happen, right? And you have to keep that in mind and balance that out long-term. But so essentially, this is the failed Bondi plan, the failed plan of obviously whoever's coming up with this, not good. Let's go into doing it right. Here's how you do it right. Legal Mindset did the research here. Number one, stop almost all refugee admissions. Number two, and we're going to talk about how to do all these things. One by one, we're going to go all 10. Number two, block entry from high-risk countries. Number three, end the TPS for every country, not just one, everyone. Terminate all humanitarian parole programs. Number five, eliminate or cripple asylum at the border. That's a big one. Make legal immigration economically impossible for most. You got to ratchet those costs up so high, it is very, very difficult. End birthright citizenship for children of illegal or temporary residents. Mass interior removal with minimal due process. 9, proper denaturalization and deportation of citizens. And 10, defunding sanctuary cities and forcing cooperation. All right, let's talk about refugee admissions. So here's how you do this. Under INA Section 207 plus a presidential determination, you could set the annual refugee ceiling to even zero. Between 0 to 1,000. Trump did 15,000 in fiscal year 2021. Biden raised it to 125. Courts almost never review the number itself. So the number itself is something that they almost never look at. So at this point, you could change that number unless you're like a political junkie or whatever, and you can do it quietly. You can do it under the table. This is how things get done successfully, is they are done as quiet part of the bureaucratic process. That's a lot of this victory. A lot of people don't realize, because they weren't working in regulatory law like I was and dealing with this. A lot of this stuff is just quiet regulation that nobody knows about unless you're really paying attention. And they're not going to pay attention to that, right? They're going to be like, oh yeah, whatever. Okay, this was passed in some random regulatory document. Okay, whatever. The ceiling is down now. The ceiling is now only 1,000 or 5,000 or 3,000 a year. That'll change it. Block entry from high-risk countries. Okay, under INA Sections 212, F and 215A, Trump versus Hawaii as well, you can issue country-specific proclamations with detailed national security findings. So let's stop the CIA from being woke and, MK Ultraing people, and let's go back to, terrorism stats, vetting failure rates, lack of cooperation on repatriation, rotating and expanding every 6 months with new intel, and avoiding racial and religious language. So let's put our intel agencies to work. And at that point, they will be able to have enough data to say, okay, country specific, we're going to block this based on that. There's actually a low chance of injunction, because if there's evidence, there's precedent under Trump versus Hawaii, they can block people. So do it. NTPS for every country under INA Section 244. Every 18 months, you have to designate them. So simply let everyone expire. Just let it expire without renewing. And then publish Federal Register notices finding changed country circumstances. So, for example, say, hey, Haiti, the earthquake is old, right? You can't permanently get TPS for the earthquake. You're not having an earthquake every year, right? That's old. It's a changed condition. Venezuela, the problems are chronic rather than temporary. These problems, TPS is supposed to be temporary, not forever, and we've allowed these things to continue forever. So just let them expire. There really is not a huge chance. It's only an average chance, because regarding Venezuela, when they tried to block that in the past, that was only partially blocked. And once again, keep trying every single time, make them fight it. Courts defer heavily to the decision. Terminate all humanitarian parole under INA Section 212. This is a case-by-case and discretionary. So once again, revoke the CHNV, U4U, and family reunification parole en masse via Federal Register notice. So courts have upheld mass termination, such with DACA, rescission litigation. It eventually failed, right? And the possibility is only medium on this. You've got a delay possible, but it usually is going to survive. Once again, do that. Eliminate or cripple asylum at the border. So circumvent INA Section 235 via metering. And I know metering is controversial. We have a Supreme Court case coming up on metering, right? Once again, let's hope that goes 6-3 the right way. but keep the remain in Mexico style agreements and safe third country agreements and transit ban. So the reinstatement of the migrant protection protocols, MPP, or new bilateral agreements with Mexico or Guatemala will help with that. We can also raise the credible fear standard via regulation. Once again, medium, and now even though it sometimes gets enjoined, the Fifth Circuit is now friendly. So you're getting more and more friendly circuits that you're able to stop this craziness at the border where everyone's claiming asylum. Also, make legal immigration expensive. Okay, raise fees to the max, extreme vetting, public charge enforcement. So use INA Section 212, an existing 2019 public charge rule, to impose a $5,000 to $1,000 asylum and EAD fee within statutory limits. So once again, make that super expensive. With everything else, extreme delays in premium processing. So you're just delaying, and consular services. So you're super delaying. You're cutting their staff. You're giving endless requests for evidence, RFEs. So you're just absolutely burying them in bureaucracy. Make it so difficult for them to get in. And the possibility is almost nothing for them to stop this. What are you going to do? You're going to challenge this? No. This is pretty much going to stop that and clog that up real quick. End birthright citizenship for illegal and temporary residents. Okay. Use an executive order and a regulation redefining subject to the jurisdiction. So when you do this is a massive swing. It's going to cause big chaos. It forces multi-year litigation that keeps the issue alive and deters arrivals. The chance of injunction are very high, but it forces litigation. So what it does is it puts the ball in their court, right? So yes, this is going to be controversial. And yes, you may win, you may lose an injunction, but you get years of this tying things up and people will be deterred from coming because they're like, well, I don't have the benefit of knowing I'm going to get this. There's no guarantee. It may lose, right? And there's going to be this gray area period where they don't have that. So it's going to tie it up and confuse it for years. Mass interior removal with minimal due process. So reinstate expedited removal nationwide and catch and release. So what you do is you expand the removal to anyone who's been there over 2 years without inspection. The authority exists since 1996, but it's never been used. They've had the authority to do this, but no president has had the balls to do this. Does Trump have the balls to do this? Let's see. Deny bond to almost everyone via regulation. There's a medium chance, there's an average chance, there's a circuit split, but the 5th and 11th uphold. Once again, we're going to talk about this, but venue shopping, very important. Denaturalization and deportation of naturalized citizens. Okay, under INA Section 340, this is how you do it. You focus on fraud and pre-naturalization crimes. So you expand Operation Janus and Second Look. You focus on provable fraud or concealed terrorism ties. Avoid ideological denaturalization like disloyalty, and that's not going to work. Risk level is low if it's tied to a fraud and terrorism. And here's the thing. This is what would have kept the guardsmen alive here. This is the thing that would have fixed the situation with the guardsmen, which ultimately is the failure of the system. Next, defunding sanctuary cities and forcing state cooperation. The most defensible tools are 8 U.S.C. Section 1373 and Section 1324 enforcement and grant conditions. I love grants. I used to be a grant writer. Withhold all discretionary DOJ and DHS grants for non-cooperative jurisdictions. Actually do that. This has been upheld by SCOTUS already. So do it. Have the courage to do it. Indict local officials, I underline that, for harboring under Section 1324 when there's evidence. When there's evidence they're doing this, indict them. Pam Bondi, get on it. You're not doing it right now. Get on it, Pam. Medium chance for injunction. But some of this will work. And especially the grant stuff, that's powerful. That's real powerful when you write that into a grant condition. Do it. All right, so let's talk about the general strategy overall. I know this is cluttered, but let me go through it. So first of all, Trump, don't announce stuff on Truth Social. What you want to do is issue quiet 60-page. You want to be quiet. We say jai yen here in Thailand. You want to do quiet 60-page presidential proclamations with 200 pages of both classified and open source data. That's number one. Number two, use the regulatory process religiously. That is your new religion. Is the regulatory process. It protects under the APA. Pick your venues carefully. The Southern District of Texas, the Northern District of Florida, those are great. The 5th and 7th, 11th districts, those are great. Keep the refugee ceiling under 5,000 every year. Next, end every parole program on day one via the Federal Register, not a tweet. Let TPS lapse country by country on statutory 18-month clock instead of a big announcement. Next, raise every possible fee to the statutory maximum or above. Next, reimpose the 2019 public charge rule exactly as written, and then expand the expedited removal nationwide via DHS memo. If you do these things, the realistic outcome is we can get down theoretically to 0 refugees. You could make that number 0. Asylum seekers, you could make them under 5,000 a year. That's possible. Family and diversity grants, they still exist, but make it a 5 to 15 year processing time with higher fees and wage requirements. Temporary worker visas, H-1B, H-2A, you can exist, but higher fees and wage requirements. Once again, make them work for it. You could also make them for H-1B, make them show up in America. Total legal permanent immigration can drop to about 150K a year, 300K a year, down from 1 to 1.2 million. That's a massive drop, right? That's a 90% drop just about, right? Illegal entries are sharply reduced via metering, credible fear, and Mexico's cooperation. If all of these things happen, we can have reverse migration. Reverse migration can be real, but you have to follow a functional, actual, legal roadmap that will win, not one that is guaranteed to lose. I want to know what you guys think about reverse migration in general. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments below, and I will catch you on the next one.